I would use a zigzag. Ooh, that's a really nice edge. Should probably be sewing this slowly, but I am impatient. Woo. Hello and welcome to Sierra Make. Today I will be showing you how I made this skirt, otherwise known as the Cara skirt from Brandy Melville, for my sister for her birthday. Because she already had the yellow skirt on the left, I used that to make the pattern for the blue skirt on the right. If you don't have a skirt to model after, let me know in the comments down below if you want to see a video on how to make a skirt pattern with just your measurements. To make a pattern using an existing skirt, you need paper. So I used packing paper, but you could use something like newspaper, scissors, measuring tape, and a pen. First thing we're going to do is just mark the outline of the front of the skirt, mark where the seams are, and cut it all out. As you can see, the front of the skirt consists of 3 panels, and there's nothing really fancy going on, so you just pretty much have to just trace that bit onto the paper and cut it out. The back side of the skirt, however, is a little bit more difficult because it has darts in it. So instead of just tracing the back of the skirt, you have to account for the space that the darts would take up. To do this, I measured the length of halfway between the skirt and the edge because the back is made of 2 panels. And then I measured the distance between each dart. At each dart point, I added an extra 3/4 of an inch so that the overall waist length was 1.5 inches longer than the actual waist of the skirt. The last piece of the pattern I had to worry about was the waistband, which I did wrong here. I did it as 1 long strip, but then I had to go back and correct it because it is actually 3 pieces. Now I just had to pin the pattern to my fabric and cut it out. Remember to double up the fabric for the back side because you need 2 pieces of that, and I also doubled up the fabric for the curved edge of the front panel. Oh, and don't forget to give yourself a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once those pieces were cut out, I had to deal with the fact that the fabric I was using, although super cute, frayed a ton on the edges, and it was also super thin fabric. You could see straight through it. So I knew I had to use a liner of some sort, so I figured I would kill 2 birds with 1 stone by cutting out the pieces in black and attaching those to their blue counterpart before I put the entire skirt together. I would use a zigzag stitch on the edge to stop the fraying and mash the 2 pieces together. That way the skirt won't be see-through either. For this doubling up of the panels, I used the zigzag stitch with the recommended width and length and dropped down the tension of the sewing machine. I lowered the tension due to the fact that the fabric is so thin and sheer, I didn't want it to pull or gather or get destroyed as I was sewing it. As I'm sewing, I'm trying to keep the blue and white fabric more or less in like the center of the foot. This stitch that I'm doing right now doesn't have to look super pretty because ultimately it's going to be hidden on the inside of the skirt if I sew this correctly. So now that we've dealt with the fraying and the see-throughness of the fabric, it's time to put the front of the skirt together. As we sew along this front seam, remember to stop maybe 3.5 inches from the bottom for that little slit that this skirt has. I marked the location of that slit with a safety pin so that I remembered to stop sewing there. Remember to backstitch where that slit is, and then we're going to flip it over and sew down that seam. A little note, this is the first stitching that is going to be visible on the outside of the skirt, so if you haven't been using a thread that matches the color of your skirt, go ahead and switch out your thread to one that blends in. Time to attach the front waistband. So this is our seam that we had sewed, And now we're going to sew this edge to the waistband. This extra stitch will just hold the seam in place. Once the front is done, it's time to move on to the back. If you're wondering why I have slits here, it's because it was my way of marking where the darts are supposed to be. It's so unnecessary, but surprise, surprise, it's my first time sewing darts, so I didn't know any better. Now I'm just laying my original pattern down onto the skirt and marking with chalk where the dart lines are. Remember, each of those darts is 3/4 of an inch wide, so instead of tracing your original pattern, you could also just measure and draw the lines. Now we're just going to fold over the dart and pin it. Right, so that's where my pin is. I'm going to check the other side to make sure it goes along the same line. It does. Fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful. Love it. All right. And we're just going to pin both sides and then sew it up. When sewing a dart, you want to really follow along the edge as long as possible, really tapering off that end. And also, don't backstitch the bottom of the dart. Instead, you're just going to sew off of the fabric and then tie that end. My hands are shaking so much. And there is our first dart. Ah, look how pretty it is. Woo! Okay, on to the next one. Once the darts are done, it's time to attach the waistband. A little reminder to do that second stitch to attach the seam to the top of the waistband. Alright, on to the hard part of the back, the zipper. The original skirt uses an invisible zipper. As you can see, it looks like this. But what I have is just a regular zipper. Same zipper that I used in the backpack video. Check out the card. So my zipper is going to show a little bit more than the original skirt, but hopefully not too much. First, I'm going to sew the bottom of the skirt like normal up into the end of the zipper. And then I'm going to iron open the top half on both sides, sewing the zipper to the fabric with the head of the zipper facing outward. That is my plan. We'll see how it works. Again, I marked the stop point with a safety pin just to differentiate it. And as I was ironing it open, I just followed along the line in the pattern. Look at that. Ain't it a beauty? Gorge, gorge, gorge. Now we're just pinning the zipper to the fabric. Be careful not to pin through both layers of fabric because we don't want this stitch to show. We're just setting the zipper in place. As you can see, I have my zipper foot on. And I'm just going to sew down this center of the zipper. When you have sewn about 2/3 of the way down, go ahead and put your needle in, lift up your foot, and pull that zipper head past the sewing point so that you can finish off the zipper and it's not in the way. There's one side of the zipper. Ooh, time to do the other side. Zipper check. Make sure it goes down. Woo! Make sure it goes up. Woo! Now that the zipper's set in place, I'm actually going to sew it a little bit closer to those teeth so that it's barely visible. You see that fold? I'm just going to sew where that fold is. So what's cool about the zipper foot is that I can sew right up to the edge of the zipper of those teeth, and this side will keep me from going over that. One more zip check. See how it's so much closer now? Ah, it looks so nice. All right, one more zip check. And pull up. Yep. Finally, it's time to pin the front and back together. I used safety pins just to do a quick fit check and then sewed it together. Lastly, we need to sew and clean up the waistband and hem the bottom of the skirt. With the skirt flipped inside out, we are going to sew the waistband to the zipper so that when we flip it the right way, the stitch doesn't show both on the outside and the inside of the skirt. All right, I sewed those bits up. I think I'm going to hand tack that down. There's what the back looks like. Woo! Look at that. Look at that. Hey! Woot! Now I'm just ironing that waistband down just to give a really nice, clean, crisp edge. Look at that clean, crisp edge. Look how, look how professional that looks. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Ugh, yes. Very last bit is to just hem the edge. And then we all good. Make sure the edge is straight and that the front side or the back side is not longer than the other. Okay, so maybe just one last teeny tiny touch. I mean, I had to put my name on it, of course. So here's an embroidered Sierra Make tag that I sewed on the inside back of it.
Wow.
Dun 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 dun! And here is the finished skirt on my sister. But how's it feel? Does it feel like it fits?
Yes.
Yeah? Does it feel professional?
Yeah.
Alright, just a quick side-by-side comparison. There is the original skirt. Here is the new skirt. So you can definitely see the zipper, but really, like, it's not that big a deal. Whatevs. If you like this video, please hit the like button, comment down below if you want a skirt like this, and please subscribe because I post new videos every Friday at 3. Thank you for watching! Yeah! Boop, 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 boop. Blah, blah, blah. Knock you over, yep.